Hi, this is Henk, and welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And my guest today is, I'm going to screw this up. So, Simon Boutier.
Pothier, yeah.
See, I was close. I was close. All right.
Yes.
All right, man. So, let's talk about what you got going on.
Oh, right now I got going on. It's Hellzone on Indiegogo and Kickstarter. It's a 78-page horror sci-fi action story that I'm writing, drawing, and coloring too. And it's on demand on Indiegogo, and it's right now funding with 9 days left on Kickstarter.
Okay.
That's my
And
project, my current project right now. Yep.
you said this sci-fi horror. Is it kind of like a cosmic horror, like Event Horizon or something like that?
Yep. Yeah. It has to do with the small speech is demons, distress signal, mysterious ship, uh salvage team, demons, welcome to Hellzone.
Yeah,
Technically,
it
you've
sounds almost like kind of not the same, but kind of close to the concept of Event Horizon, which is one of my favorite movies.
it was one of the inspiration behind the story. Technically, it's a mix of like trying to do like all the classic sci-fi stories and one horror in one. So like the it's I don't want to spoil it because it's part of the reveal in the story, but it's not like Event Horizon. The only thing that's similar is the fact that there's a mysterious ship appearing and there's a team going to investigate. That's
Right.
about
Well,
it.
you said demons and rescue ships, so like that,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of seems like I mean, there's like obviously Event Horizon has this whole complex story behind it, but
Yep.
that kind of seems like part of the premise, like part of the draw for it.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. It's in part of the inspiration. Like it was something that came up from like one of my friends that came up to me and wanted to like collaborate on putting something together, right? And he goes like, I'd like to do something in an homage to like Event Horizon, Alien, Doom, a mix of stuff. And I'm like, okay, so what's the premise? And the premise that he pitched to me was the first 5 pages. It goes, there's a ship, they're going on it. When they teleport, it goes wrong, and all the team dies except her. I'm like,
Okay.
okay.
No, I
So
and
so I'm like,
another
what
great
happens
movie.
before? I'm like, what happens before? It goes, I don't know. What happens after? I don't know. What
Right.
happened? Why did that happen? I don't know. So that's when that's when I came in. But yeah,
Okay.
they're there.
And
Mm-hmm.
you're saying you wrote and drew it?
Yep.
Okay. What would you compare your illustration like the people that inspired you, the icons of the industry?
Most people when they look at what I'm doing, they think of like the '90s image comics type of thing, right?
Okay.
Then the '90s image, or like the with a twist of anime in there, because I my background is a lot into like I love French, American, and mangas, right? I grew up with all that stuff with anime and stuff like that, and I have an animator's background.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a big mix of like French, American, and manga into one style type of thing. And one of the things that a lot of people say, and I'm pretty proud of, is people know that it's me. Like I've found my own style. If you get my drift.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, that's always good. Yeah. Um, a lot of people I like, and a lot of the people that kind of break the boundaries, like when they come out, everybody's like, I don't know, but then after a while, it's like that was the man, like
Mm-hmm.
Bill Sienkiewicz or like Mike Mignola or like anybody that does stuff away from the normal vein.
Yeah, that's the thing is like like my own books. Like this is like the fourth book I'm crowdfunding right now. My the first book at crowdfunding was something called Blood Hunt. It was an 80-page you could say sci-fi action horror, not sci-fi. It's about vampires. So the entire premise is something I came up in 2017, 2018, and I crowdfunded it in 2019, and it came out in 2020. And the premise is imagine John Wick, right? Instead of losing his
There's
dog,
also a great movie. Yeah.
instead of losing his dog, the guy falls in love with one of his clients, like he's the world-renowned assassin, like he's a hitman, right? And he falls in love with the daughter of one of his client, and the client doesn't like it and send him on a mission where he's supposed to die, and he finds out that he's supposed to kill an old man, and he finds out that it's a vampire. And
No.
instead of dying, he kind of not survive, but you get my drift because of vampires. So he kind of survived this encounter and goes on the path of vengeance. That was Blood Hunt. And right now I'm working on the sequel because after I'm done with this, I'm launching the sequel to Blood Hunt. And I'm also behind. My second book was reprinting one of my first book I printed in 2012, which was Nat the Merc.
Okay.
What I did is I did a collective. It's like a collective, but it's more like remember in the I don't know if you're old enough for this, but if you go back in a few years, Marvel and DC had those thick book, and within those thick books, you had 5 different comics, right? But you all knew they were like you had Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and other characters, but you know they were all in the same universe. So that's what I did with Tales from the Natverse. So it's not the Merc, but you also have short stories of other characters in the same universe.
Right. Well, yeah, no, of course, I wanted to initially be a comic artist, and I
Mm-hmm.
moved to New York in 98, like
Mm-hmm.
1998, to interview with DC Comics. But right around then is when all the mainstream comic companies were kind of going bankrupt. Like the movie saved them, if it wasn't
Yeah,
for
it
like,
did. Yeah, Marvel went bankrupt. DC was having a hard time too. DC survived because of the animated movies. All
right.
those animated movies that were insane. They were really good.
Yeah, well, DC is a very hit or miss. They'll put out like the best movie, and they'll put out total crap. So
Hmm.
it's kind of hit or miss, but they put out some like
No, but I
stellar
mean
work.
the animated movies from the beginning all the way to Dark Knight Returns, like the animated movies were pretty freaking good. They were better than their movies.
Oh, awesome. Well, Dark Knight Returns I really liked. I thought that was really good. But yeah, you're right. Like some of them are like great, and some are like Suicide Squad. Like that could have been so much better.
Yeah, but did you see the animated one, Suicide
No,
Squad? It's Batman Arkham Asylum or something, and it's
yeah.
technically the Suicide Squad, and it's way better than the Suicide Squad movie.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, I'll check it out. I kind of have a
Yeah.
thing where like I tend not to watch animated movies as much as real movies, even though
Mm-hmm.
I've read a whole host of comics. I mean, I've been into comics since like the 1980s, basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they go through all different iterations. One thing I always loved is they're all in the same universe. So
Yep.
sometimes their paths will cross. Something happens, like it's still like significant and relevant, like 20 years later.
Mm-hmm. But it's one of the things like except like I said, Hellzone, it's something by itself, right? Because it's not just created by me, right? It started with a collab and then it was given to me to finish, right? To finish it off. My original IPs like Blood Hunt, there's a Demona. Those are my supernatural characters. They're all in the same universe.
Okay.
But the Natverse, it's its own little thing. Like it's my sci-fi. Like it's like let's just say you know Heavy Metal Magazine, right?
Yeah, of course.
So technically, imagine like it's my Heavy Metal Magazine universe,
Okay.
but it's a shared universe with Nat the Merc. There's Queen Elrica in there. There was a blue queen fighter like warrior. There is Rose the space pirate, and there's Lowani the metal Valkyrie. So it's all other characters, but in the same universe as Nat the Merc. So when you take like Tales on Nat verse 1, let's just say you have 2 stories of Nat, one story of Rose, one story of Queen Elrica. When you go in the second book, you have 2 big stories of Nat, and you have 2 stories of the Lowani, the Metal Valkyrie. So it's always like that when it's Tales on an Adverse. Like the next book I'm working on, I'm already like 40 something page in. So that's gonna come out and it's gonna be even better. It's gonna conclude the first story. Then after that, they all gonna have their own, each their own books.
And these are all graphic novels.
They all like they all technically graphic novels. Like you have like here you have this one, Blood Hunt. It's a 80 page,
Okay.
right? You have Nadverse number 1, which as you can see, that was another 80 page. So you have like 5 stories in there, 5 short
Okay.
stories. And this was what the last one, Nadverse 2, and that was 120 pages and it has 5 stories in it. So they are graphic novel size because the thing is, since I'm doing crowdfunding, right? I thought like being international, being a backer personally myself, right? Back in the days, like a lot of people were doing floppy comics for 24 page, asking for $15, but you
Right.
had to pay like $25 shipping, right?
Okay.
And then when later on, people started doing 48 pages and still asking for $25 shipping, right? But they were asking for like 20, 25 for a 48 page. Me, I came in, I'm like, how can I make this worth your
I'm old.
while?
I remember comics were like 75 cents.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But right now, you know that you go to a comic book shop and right now they're $3.99, $5.99
Of course,
US for a
yeah.
floppy. Yeah. So I'm like, for backers that are behind me, how can that will back me? I'm like, how can I make $25 shipping worth their while because I'm in Canada, right? I'm like, how can I make it worth their while by offering more bang for their buck, right? So I'm like, how much can I put for $25 in a box without costing me too much? So it came up to like maybe 80, 100 page. I'm like, okay, so I can sell you a full miniseries as one book type of thing, right? Like the content of a full miniseries that I could later on split in multiple books,
Okay.
right? So that's my approach. I'm like that. I can offer you guys like a 80 to 100 page book for people that want to back my campaign, and later on I can just split them up however I want.
Okay.
But it's
When
always
you
high
do the
quality.
crowdfunding and the Kickstarter and so on, do you offer like perks like posters or stuffed animals or like signed artwork or whatever?
Yep, yeah, technically, like on the first Blood Hunt, one of the first things that I like to do with Blood Hunt, you have the be in the book tier and the die in the book tier, and yeah, you get to be a monster in the book, right?
Yeah, well,
Uh,
yeah.
Sometimes there's original art, sometimes there's unlockable prints. They're like comic book size print, but on cardstock. I don't do paper prints. I do cardstock. Right? There's
Okay.
cards. And every campaign, the first 100 backers of a physical book get a free sketch card. I've always done that. It's something I do with all my campaigns. Right?
Okay, awesome. Have they done pretty well so far? Like, do you find
You,
that people are more into something than something else?
technically, so far, Bloodhunt has done pretty well on Indiegogo because that's where I've been doing most of my crowdfunding. So I did like about 18,000 Canadian there, right? On Nadverse 1, I did something similar too, and Nadverse 2 as well. Hellzone, instead of launching in the summer, I launched it in January to test the ground because I wanted to have more than one book this year, right? So I launched Hellzone, and since it's not one of my or how can I say original IPs, like it's a bit harder of a sell right now. This one's not doing as well as the other ones. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm doing with this one. It's gonna be. I'm gonna go to print by the end of this month. Like right now, everything's done. I'm just finishing up the dialogues and lettering. Right now, I just sent the proofreading copies to the people going over the dialogues and stuff like that to let me know if everything's fine. And then it's final lettering and printing. But usually I do pretty well, and usually I get funded within the first week,
Okay,
and I do
awesome.
pretty well. But
Yeah.
usually I run a campaign for like a year, so it's kind of like getting people used to a different approach right now because I'm trying to have more than one book. I don't want people to wait a year and a half for my books anymore.
Okay. And are you running a campaign right now?
Yeah, like right now the Indiegogo in demand, so it's still there. I made like 5,300 and something there Canadian, by the way. It's in demand, so you can still go back it there. And Kickstarter, I was funded, but somebody canceled their backing at the yesterday or 2 days ago. So right now I'm at 97%. So I just one backer away to go back to being funded.
Okay, and when is the Kickstarter campaign over?
And it's ending on the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, on the 18th. So you still have like 9 days to go.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So I'll get this out before then. Hopefully, you'll get it
And
fully backed. Because
mm-hmm,
I know the problem with Kickstarter is they're like all or nothing. So like
yeah,
I run stuff on there before, and it's like people be into it, but if you don't reach that certain limit, like everything ceases.
yes, exactly. But everybody gets their money back.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Indiegogo is the same, but you get the option of getting, you can keep the money, but I think it's a bit disingenuous. Does that make sense? Because you
Right.
don't.
Right.
So I usually go when I launch my campaign, I usually ask for the minimum of how much I would need, right? So that one I put $1,000 on Kickstarter, you Canadian, and on Indiegogo I was at 5,000 Canadian, and that one's
What's
funded.
a currency comparison right now between Canadian and like US? Do you know?
Usually it used to be 86 cents on a dollar, but right now because of the tariff, the thing that's been happening in the trade, it's a bit it keeps going up and down. It went down to like 74, 72, 70. I'm just hoping that all this settles down pretty quick.
Yeah, I hope so too. I run a tattoo shop, and a lot of our supplies are obviously made by other countries. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden everything jumped way up in price. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully everything will settle. Like, there's nothing we can actually do about it, to be quite honest.
There's very little, yeah. Um, you said you had a start in the animation background. What were you doing there?
But technically, it's because I studied the 3D animation and digital design at university. So I have a bachelor's degree in animation. So I didn't really work in animation, but I have an animation background, right? But I did do concept art for a cartoon called The Hit.
Okay.
I did storyboard for experimental movie called Midnight Wind that won some awards, right? But there's a part of me that when I got out of there, the movie industry was not as tempting as when I was younger. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
I came out of there wanting to make more comics than anything else.
I feel like a lot of industries, like people have kind of branched off on their own because it's like very hard to like make money. Like Walter Simonson, the podcast you saw,
Mm-hmm.
he teaches in art school now. He's like a
Mm-hmm.
legendary illustrator, but Marvel kept all the rights.
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel screwed over a whole bunch of people. To be quite honest,
Yeah,
it's one of the
I
reasons why I have a
interviewed
problem.
I
Yeah,
interviewed Steve Bissett, same thing. I interviewed like a bunch of people. They all say the same thing.
yeah, and right now they're trying to use another approach to try and steal more creative rights with saying that the editor can claim it. If I'm not too long ago with Wolverine there, so the editor that was there now is a co-creator. I'm like, that doesn't work that way. Marvel DC to me, I see them as the McDonald of comics. You go there to maybe do something, but that's how I started doing my own books. The thing is, this is a little bit background of who I am, right? So during all this time when I was when I went back to college, university, I'm a single father as well of two kids, right? So I went back to college and university full time, and as I still wanted to do what I wanted as comics, and I was going around and going for like to get interviews, to try and get a job at DC Marvel, ended up in Toronto called the Fan Expo. And this is the I met John Romita Jr.
Okay.
and a few other people, but he was one of the key ones saying, like, you look at my shit, he goes, your stuff's good. He goes, don't come at Marvel and steal my work. Steal my job. I was like, but the biggest meeting was when I met with Michael Turner.
Okay.
Michael Turner, like, imagine, like, I'm there, right? Everybody has their professional files to show their art, right? I'm there just with a little file, and I just decided to grab my shit at the last minute to go to Toronto, right? I'm gonna go show my art, right? I was getting a bit like disenfranchised with trying to get at Marvel and DC. Sometimes they take your shit because one of the things is when you apply to different companies, when you sell them art and stuff, they own it.
Yeah.
So if you send a design for a
Yeah, well, if you
character,
look like
they own
back
it. Yeah,
to Jack Kirby, like they didn't even give him a lot of his original art back. Like
yeah,
instead, they just like give it to people that they felt like, and those people now they resell on eBay, and it'll be
yeah.
like 3 grand a page.
But that's
Like,
why they said don't send original characters when you apply to Marvel and DC. You have to draw their own characters because if you send your own character, right,
oh, I know, yeah,
and the application, they own it.
yeah,
So they can take the inspiration off of it, and it's freaking stupid. But I was going around, and I was a bit like, okay, I don't know what to do, and the comic medium here in where I'm at is it's. So I go to Toronto and I meet Michael Turner, and he looks on my file, and I'm like, he's gonna just criticize my shit because I was seeing him going, oh, it's okay, you need more work, oh, you need this, oh, you need that, right? He opened my file, his eyes open, he looked at me, he goes, that's you? Oh yeah. Calls all his freaking partners, and they start looking at my file, telling
yeah,
me,
awesome,
how,
yeah,
how good work I'm doing and shit like that. And I go, dude, that's original, that's interesting. So he goes, you need to stop thinking about that. Technically, he said multiple things, but one of the things he said is you need to stop thinking about working for another company. You need to invest in your own things.
right.
So I'm sure you already have a character that you created a long time ago. And I'm like, yeah, the character called Wolf Dragon, which was one of the first story and character I created, goes, really? That sounds so cool. What is it? I'm going, it's the last dragon born in human form, blah, 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 blah. He's like, and that was already out that's ended up being a fanzine after, but I'm like, I tell him this shit. And he's like, you know what? Go to your room and I want you back here tomorrow with 2 pages laid out. So I came back the next day with 3 pages done and 2 page layout laid out. Like I went up there and just drank like 2 energy drink and just freaking drew all night, like yeah. So I go downstairs and he goes, "Oh, dude, that's freaking nice, and then that's freaking good. Keep going at it." So I was meeting with him like for like 4 or 5 years in a row, like at least like 4 years in a row. But that last year is when he died. Is when he passed away.
No.
He passed away of cancer. And the last day that I went to meet him over there the last year, like they canceled I was there, right? And you know, paid a babysitter and took all the money I had to go there and just to meet him again, right? And I get there and they canceled him being there because he was not feeling well, right? So I'm like, fuck, I came here for nothing. No, I hope he's gonna be better. And I get a message on my phone. We canceled, but we're still gonna see you, so meet you at the table. I'm like, wait, what? So I go at the table and I see him coming with his crutches, coming just to see me and go through my thing again, like we did every year before, right? He goes, you're ready, dude. Get this done. So I got home and I finished the first because I published it as a fanzine, but the first issue of Will Dragon, and he passed away not too long before I finished. But yeah, that was a pretty sad story. But that guy changed my life. And another one of the best advice he gave me is finish not perfect.
Okay.
The more there's way too many people. There's like 90% of creators that start a comic book and will never finish because they're trying to do perfect, and you'll never finish it if you're trying to do the perfect. So you need to practice the finish, not perfect. So technically, get your first freaking story out. It may suck, but then after that, it's only the only way is up. So good advice.
Yeah.
Because after that, when you finish your book, you are a creator, and then all you can do is get better, and always be open to criticism.
You should definitely always be open. Like I remember when I went to art school, like the people that like they always try and defend everything. They never
Yeah,
get anywhere. Just like you need to listen to people who are like veterans on the scene, or just have a different perspective.
but I remember when Neil Adams. Yeah, was that it? Neil Adams? Yeah, when I met Neil Adams, that was awesome. I was there with one of my friend that was getting published at DC called Valentine 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 Leandro. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm screwing up his last name. But Valentine de Landro. Okay, and he worked on. He's the one that drew the comic book and the Image Comics called Bitch Planet. He worked at DC and stuff. So we were there, me and him, and we were all getting ready to go get our portfolio reviewed by Neil Adam. And he's stressed and he's this and he's that, and he goes before me. He comes back and he's almost fucking like not crying, but like he's all like, fuck, I got burned, like my eyes, my this is like saying that I need to work on my eyes because the eyes and like, dude, he fucking tore me down. I'm like, holy shit.
Well,
There he goes, good luck.
He's a legend, and he is really good. So,
And he's like, good luck. I'm like, okay, so I'm going there. Like it's my turn because we had little appointments. And he takes my file and he goes, "You ready for this, right? Because you know that this is like there's no return. It's like going to the meat grinder." I'm like, "Let's do this, bro." Like I didn't say that like that, but let's do this. That's why I'm here. So he opens the first page, right? He starts going like, "Oh, you need to spend more time on your background and stuff like that to make your rocks look more like rocks and stuff like that." But then he flips the second page and all he starts going, "Dude, I love your eyes." Get it? Like he's like, your eyes are so like expressive and this
so
is like
like the one thing he looks for, you're like, I pulled off.
yeah. So he's like, dude, it's all you did was that. Like, there's a picture. He's tapping me in the back. He goes, dude, you got potential. You're gonna go somewhere with this. He goes, but you just need to spend more time on your background and care more about your backgrounds. And he liked the dynamic that I have because, like I said, it's that little animation that I like to put in my book, right? So it was very
Dinos
flattering.
in the flow.
It
It's one
changed
thing
my
I like
those
about
two
local
encounters really
comics,
changed
and
my
it's
life.
like I remember like back in the day, the way he would do is he would use these little pages and draw thumbnails. So he
Yep,
put out the whole page like this size, just
that's what I do.
that maximum impact. And then
That's
he
what I
put
do.
the projector and projected on like Bristol board, and then he draw it on the Bristol board. So he managed to capture what he had in that little tiny
Mm-hmm.
illustration.
Yeah, I do that, but with digital. So I
Yeah,
draw them on paper.
that's what he does now too. I was like, do you
I
see
draw them.
that? He's like, oh
I
no, no.
I do my thumbnail on paper because when I write, I always do it on paper usually, right? So I when I script, I don't just write. I kind of do a storyboard at the same time, and I have pictures with my writing all the time, and those are the little thumbnails there. And after that, I scan them or I just redraw them on digital. Yeah, and like I said, Walt Simonson is one of my biggest, like not he's there. He's one of my big influences. That I have his entire collection almost.
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a bunch of people, and they might be all different, like different influences, different styles,
Yeah.
and everything. But I think if you're good at something, you're good at something.
Yep.
Like I can really appreciate Mike Mignola, or I can
I
appreciate
love
like
Mike
John
Mignola.
Tolman. John Tolman is one of my favorites.
See me, I remember when I first really got into like American comics. I really, really like John Byrne and Art Adams. Art Adams is the one that really, really, really
Yeah,
got my
Art Adams is
attention
awesome.
early. And a lot of people is like, it's with X-Men. I'm like, not me. Maybe it was before that. It was one of his first job, long shot. Dude,
Yeah,
I freaking love the Ministry long shot, and it got me hooked. Like I love his art style. I love everything about what he does. And after that, I just followed every book that he did. Okay, let's just be frank, he didn't do that many, but
well, he did that
they're all
because it
awesome.
would take him a while to put so much detail into it that he kept getting like behind schedule, and it's
Yeah,
finally like, all right, I give up, get someone else. But he's
but
awesome.
yeah, he's one of my favorite artists. And then after that, obviously, the entire Image group was another big influence to me. Like everything from Tom McFarlane to Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee. Bisley wasn't one of my first also big freaking inspirations. Simon Bisley, and I forgot to
Yeah,
put there with the
Sam
three
Bisley
other ones.
actually could do it fast. Like he's good, but he could also do it fast, which
Yeah,
I'm sure Marvel and DC really appreciated. But
dude,
like
I love it.
like Lobo and Judge Dredd stuff,
That's what
amazing.
I'm saying. Lobo was awesome. Like that's one of my favorite things. Then after that, there's also like the Keon that was pretty good, like on Hulk, and then Pitt. Whilst there's Whilst Pothier also, that's another big influence of mine. And one other thing about Todd McFarlane is I'm one like a lot of people like his art. Me, I was more like I love his inks. Like I
Yeah,
always thought his art was interesting. Like his storytelling was interesting, right? But his art always like more caricature than style wise, and that was kind of like a bit. But his inks are insane. And when he inked
his
Greg
stuff definitely
Capullo,
does look better when the ink's in. And I really love his dynamism and his flow and his like
yeah,
action, like in your face scenes.
yes,
I was more a fan of like the Al Williamson, Steve Bissett, John Tobin school, but I really liked his dynamism.
yep, he was very dynamic. That's the thing that they all had. That the original image there with Eric Larson and stuff like that. And one of the things that a lot of them were influenced by the manga and anime from the 80s and 90s. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
shows a lot when you know it shows a lot. There's a lot of Mashamune Shido in the Liefeld and Jim Lee stuff. It's a thing. Like you should really explore it because me, like I said, I grew up with the all three influence, right? So I read stuff like Inco, Meta Baron, which technically stuff that you saw in Heavy Metal magazine, which was a lot of French comics and British comics, which is its own little thing by itself. Then you had the American comics, and then you had manga. And like I said, I grew up with all that shit. So Ghost in the Shell,
They're all kind of
Akira.
Ghost in the Shell is awesome too, but they're all kind of
Yeah,
influences.
yeah. They all like if you look at all the original Image funders, one of the dynamic, the speed line, a lot of it comes from the manga influence.
Okay.
That's yeah. And I've been a fan of theirs since they were not just Image, but X-Men, the X-Force, New Mutants, all that stuff. The Punisher runs that they did. Whilst Petitia was awesome. He's
Okay.
another one of my favorites.
Do you do you just have the Kickstarter campaign? Do you also have a website? Like if people want to go see your stuff and contact you?
Yeah, I have a website called inkslayerintertainment.com. So my
Okay.
book, my books, my previous books are there too. And if you go into campaigns, all my books are also available in the add-ons.
Okay, do you sell them on like Amazon or could people like order them at like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that?
For the moment, you can buy them on Amazon. Not all of them. There's only like what I did is you have Blood Hunt there, and you have the first Nadverse book split in two. I try to give a little delay for the people that buy my campaigns before I launch them on Amazon. Barnes and Nobles, they're not there yet.
Yeah, I know a number of people like Carissa Grant and Aaron they do this thing where it's like they hate Amazon's like the way they print stuff, so they have someone else print it, but they'll sell it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I did. I used their print on demand for those two first books.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
that, like that.
I, I, I
The
do
shipping
like
is cheap.
illustrated cosmic horror books. So
Mm-hmm.
when I do them through Amazon, I haven't had a problem. But they were saying something about like the color translation or something. I don't know. I haven't had anything color printed by Amazon, so I don't know.
When I do colors, one of the tricks that one of my friends told me, it's that it depends on how you export them, right? So
Okay.
when what I've been doing is I've been using RGB instead of CYMK, but I use
Okay.
RGB in something called Color Match RGB,
Okay.
and so far it has always printed pretty decent colorways,
Okay.
even on Amazon.
All right. So you're saying, but not everything's available on Amazon, but is it
Not
available on your website?
Yes, everything's available on my website as the collector limited edition, and they come in signed, right?
Okay.
Inside, and they come with an extra little print, all of them. And if you go on Amazon, there's only the Blood Hunt that's available there, and the first Tales from the Nadverse, but split in two Not the Merc books. So you have Not the Merc Zero, which reprints the first stories from 2012, 2015 that I did a
Okay.
while back, and you're gonna see this. You're gonna see my growth there because old art versus the new art. When you go to Not the Merc number one, you're gonna see the difference of art. So you have like Blood Brothers in there, and you have Queen Elrica. So it's 240 something page book, and they're like I think they were like
What
13 or
you're
12,
you're seeing
15.
like kind of your evolution, like the way you
Yes,
grew then, the way you draw now, and you kind of see that
exactly.
sort of transition. How much would
Yeah,
you say it's changed over time? Like
a
there's some
lot.
people that have changed like immensely, like they're barely recognizable, and there's some people that haven't really changed.
I think my style has become clearer, but technique wise, storytelling wise, detail wise, when people look at the first three, they go, "Oh, that's cool. I like the style. I like this," and then they look at the new style, they go, "Oh shit, that's that's totally different." Go, yeah, it's. I don't know if I can show you like something if it's gonna show here, but let me give you an example.
Like what I'm thinking of is like if you look at like early Barry Windsor Smith stuff, it was one style, and then you look at later on, he's developed a whole new style. Like I really love what his new style was, but he like evolved into a totally different artist.
So you have this. When you look at this, it's a bit like simple and squarish, and that was the first time I ever used digital medium, and I did not have a Cintiq back then. And then you go versus this,
Okay,
which is a hell of a freaking difference.
yeah. I'll put the images up on screen so people
Yeah,
can see them nice and tight.
I'll send you some. Yep,
Okay.
but there's a hell of a difference. So yeah, I think it's pretty big. And talking about Bisley, I have him doing a back cover from that verse too.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Did you just contact him and he was like totally into it?
Yeah, but I met him at a Comic Con a long time ago. That was something that he did for like the first. Uh, I did a campaign on Kickstarter in 20 something, 2020, how long was it? 2014, 20, it's not 2016. And it almost funded, but it didn't. But the art was for this. The book didn't come out. It was called Art to Sim or something. Like people were telling me that that was an art book, but it was really like the anthology. So it's what became Tales from the Adverse later. So
Okay.
that's why I didn't use it, but I used it for this back cover number two because I was really proud of it. If you look at the front cover, too.
Okay. Yeah,
So
cool. All right, man. Well, I think that that coverage of careers is something that I left out. Is there
mhm.
something that you have available for people that you'd like to let them know about?
If there's sorry, if there's what?
Is there something else like something that you have upcoming, something that you have
Oh
out now,
yeah,
like another project you're working on?
yeah. Right now, it's there's Hellzone that's gonna go to print stuff like that. But after that, I'm done with this. The sequel to Blood Hunt is coming out, and it's very it's action packed. And if you like that gory type of like John Wick type of action, from good old action, like technically the inspiration behind it was a bit of John Wick and Payback. Remember the movie
Okay.
Payback with Mel Gibson? Like the idea that you root for a bad guy
Which I've
that's
seen both.
yeah,
I've seen all the John Wick movies and Payback. I think
because
actually Payback is kind of underrated. Like a lot of people haven't seen it.
I agree. I freaking love that movie. But I took the idea of him being like, you root for a bad guy, but in that world, he's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy because he's a good guy amongst the bad
Right.
guys. Get it? Like that little aspect where you
He's a
root for the
flawed
bad guy.
hero. I think
Yeah,
those are the best.
yeah. So that's the thing with Vincent and Blood Hunt. And Blood Hunt right now, you have the sign up. You can go on Indiegogo and sign up for that. And after that, it's also in Verse 3. Those are my two next projects. And but since I try to have as much of the book done now, because before it used to be like, hey, here's 5 to 10 pages. If the campaign funds, I'll get it done. Now I try to get as much of it done beforehand,
Do you
so
have
people don't want to
a
rush.
newsletter that people can sign up for so they can like see what you're up to and be notified when you start a new project?
Yeah, they can do that on my website. There's a newsletter you can get there, and you can get when you do so, you get 15% off the first books. There's a few books that they have the 15% on. You get a
Okay,
code.
yeah,
Yeah.
give it a shout out to your website again.
It's called inkslayerintertainment.com and click on that little 15% off thing, and that's the sign up page.
Okay, awesome. And all right, last question I'll ask. I don't want to keep you
Go
here all
ahead.
day, but I always ask people to compare this stuff to something else. Not saying that you ripped it off, but just like this inspired me. So if you like this, you'll like my stuff.
Mm-hmm. Technically, it's like heavy metal magazine. That type of freaking raunchy type of like action or stuff like that. It's not like 18 plus, but it's for mature audience, right? So like it can be
Yeah,
13 and
I
plus,
felt
but
like
if
heavy metal was kind of like riding the edge, like it's like
yep,
a little more gritty, a little bit more hardcore, but it's not like openly like slasher, pornographic, splatter
no.
punk, you know.
So that's what I do. Then okay, it's something that could be 13 plus depending on the maturity, right? 16 plus, like it's that fine line, right? So there's violence, there's gore, there's bad language, there's partial nudity, not full blown. No, get it? It's that's what I try. I try to write that same wave of heavy metal. So I think it's one of the best
I feel like the
example.
American audience is kind of weird. Like, for us, it's like, you can have tons of fucking violence, but no nudity. And like
Yeah,
in Europe, they're like, you can have tons of nudity, but like
no
tame back on
violence.
the violence.
It's the same thing here because I'm in Canada, right? I'm in the French part of Canada, so it's about the same way, but from different province. So some people like the violence, right? Violence is good, just no nudity. And in Quebec is the other one. You could put nudity, but no, not too much violence. It's a weird thing, like you're saying, the European. But if you actually read European comics, right, you'll see that they have all of it
Right.
because French comics, it's the only medium that's like manga. That's why if you like comic books, you should really try and open more your horizon on what because comics in France, your French comic and manga, they have comics for everyone. They don't believe that comics are for kids. Comics are for everyone. It's the same thing with animation. Animation is not just for kids; it's for everyone. That's why I love so much that the heavy metal movies. I love both of those movies.
I know. I know. I talked to a lot of people. Like I've been like all over Europe, and it's like it's only the U.S. where they try and like fit in a little bit of a box.
Yeah, but in Europe, it's known as the night art. It's there with architecture and everything, and
Okay.
paintings. Comic books is considered the night art, except in the U.S.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird thing, but it is.
Yeah, it is weird. It's like things like they go through these like weird patterns. Like I owned a tattoo shop for a long time. Only like bikers and whatever got tattoos, and now
Hmm.
everybody gets them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the same in the comics. Like I remember for a while, it was like, yeah, that throwaway thing you get at 7-Eleven, and now like you have serious artists into it.
But like I could recommend something like for people. Like one of the books, French books, I like to recommend for people. It's either the Inkle or the Meta Baron. It's the Jodorowsky verse, and that's Jodorowsky created that after trying to do the first Dune movie.
Okay.
So there's a big freaking documentary about it, and all the people that he had on his team ended up going to do Alien and Star Wars.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
he used everything that he did to do the Inkle and Meta Baron. Inkle is also the inspiration behind the Fifth Element.
So if you want to delve more into this, would you go to like Amazon? There are like
Yes,
YouTube documentaries about it.
you can find the documentary on YouTube about the Jodorowsky's Dune, or on Amazon as well, and you can find his books on Amazon. And there's always like a newer edition. But like I said, try the Inkle and Meta Baron. The Inkle was with Mobius, and Meta Baron it's my favorite.
Another legend of the genre. Yeah.
Yeah, and Meta Baron is my total favorite, and it's with Juan Ramirez. And the art is all painted and stuff like that. And dude, it's one of my favorite story ever. It's one of my favorite French comic books, and I love it.
Okay. Awesome. All right, and give a shout out to your campaign again, and tell everyone how long it lasts.
So the current campaign that I have right now, it's called Hellzone, 78 page of sci-fi horror, or like I like to say on that little pitch, 78 page of bloody mayhem, right? So it's inspired by all those classic sci-fi movies I like growing up with in the 80s and 90s, including Event Horizon, like we discussed. That it's a mix of everything, right? And the story turns around like a
I've
character
watched
called.
way too many. I can name way too many. Everything from like Last Starfighter to
Did you
like,
watch? Did you watch Pendragon? Like that's
of
one
course,
that like
yeah.
a lot of that's an underrated one. It's pretty freaking
It
good.
is, although I did feel like I remember everyone's comparing it. They're like, if you like Event Horizon, watch this. I'm like, well, it's kind of different, but
Yeah,
I enjoyed
it's
it.
more like Aliens
Yeah,
or
it
something
is
like
more
that.
like Aliens.
And I really like that was a surprise movie for me. But
Well,
it's in
the
those
twist
type of
at the
vein.
end, especially, I'm not
Yeah.
going to give it away, no spoilers, but yeah, there's a pretty significant twist at the end.
If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Like it's pretty good. So Hellzone, that's what it is. It's kind of like an inspired from all those type, and I'm trying to put that into it. So the entire premise is now the full pitch would be this. So you follow the adventure of Hannah. Hannah is a combat medic, and she's sent to investigate a ship that just reappeared after 55 years of being missing, right?
Okay.
And there's a distress signal saying that blah blah
I
blah
feel
blah.
like that's just
So
part of a lot of great shows.
so they go on. They board. They get ready. They board on the ship, but to a teleportation, and the teleportator goes wrong. So
Okay.
the her entire crew explodes next to her, but she's unaffected. So she appears
Okay.
on the ship, but all her crew, the rest of her crew are splattered everywhere in blood. She turns around. She's freaking out, like what the hell's going on? And then you see little blood fiends, demons coming out of the blood. So those are the
Um,
first pages you get on the campaign.
dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
Yeah, people should definitely check
Dot
it
dot
out.
dot. And to give you the pitch is she has to face a full ship of demons and blood fiends, right? And all she has is the help of a priest monk and a hell gun attached to her arm that feeds off her blood.
Okay.
So this is Hell Zone for you.
Yeah,
So
no,
you
it
get what I mean? Like it has it.
definitely sounds like it has promise.
So
And
it has inspiration from a whole bunch of movies. Like I'm not surprised because to me it's the way of this is everybody identifies or gets to know shit by comparison to others. So if it rings you little clicks on different things, means I'm doing my job properly.
yeah,
Now I just need to not rip it off and do something interesting. Get it?
yeah.
But that's Hellzone for you, and I think it's a really fun ride. It's a one shot story. It's not to be continued. You don't have to worry. You're getting one full story in it,
It's
and
not
that's
going to
it.
be continued, or it's like you don't need a continuation.
I don't need one. Like it's a one shot story. I could come up with a sequel. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's not planned. And right now for me, it's just a one shot there. That's it.
Okay,
But
awesome.
Blood Hunt, the first one, it's not to be continued. It's a one-shot story, my full story. But I said that there was a possible sequel if people really liked it. So after I was working on the two books of Nat Tales and the Netverse, people were asking for the sequel of Blood Hunt, and I'm like, you know what? I'll get on it. So I wrote, and now I'm like 80, almost 80 pages done in black and white. It's gonna be a black and white like the first book is, and that's what I'm gonna be going as my next one. It's probably gonna be a bit more than 80 pages, but yeah.
Okay, and last question, like as far as the perks people can get, do you sell original artwork on there as well?
Yes. There's not that many because I usually work digital, right? But I
Okay.
always try and do at least one cover, right? So one tells on an adverse, there's often like multiple covers in one book because of different, there's multiple comics in it.
Right.
Sometimes there's going
Like
to be a cover
variant
for
covers
sale.
on the same work, or you have different works?
Okay, in Tales on an Adverse, like I said before, it's 5 books in one. So imagine 5 floppy put in one book, right? So they
Okay.
each have their covers. And sometimes I'll pick one or two and make them as original art and pencils and have it for sale on the campaign. Right now on the Kickstarter, you have the Kickstarter exclusive cover because on Kickstarter they'll have to have those nude covers. So I did
Right.
the free nipples out, right? So there's a very sexy cover of Hannah there, and it's exclusive to Kickstarter. But the original art is available there as pencils and inks. So you can get both or just one of the other. But I
Okay.
do have, and like I said, first 100 backers of a physical copy of the book get a free sketch card. So here's your original art.
Wait, awesome, man. All right, well, thank you very much for doing this interview. Do you have
Oh, thank you for
anything
inviting
else you
me.
want to throw out for the social sphere?
Not that much. Just keep supporting indie creators because one of the things I like to say to everybody, it's one of the lines I like to tell. It's we may be the dreamers, us creators, but you guys are the dream makers. If we don't have your support or you don't read our stuff, we can't do what we do. So I always say that to everybody. It's one of my thing. Like we may be the dreamers, but you guys are the dream makers. So please keep making other creators' dreams come true and go support some crowdfunding everywhere. Because not just me, there's a whole bunch of them, and go check them out. Like seriously, just do. You have nothing to waste, and sometimes it can be tax deductible.
And there are a lot of hidden gems. Like you wouldn't have The
Yeah,
Crow, you wouldn't have Hellboy and stuff like that if people didn't support indie work.
dude, you wouldn't even have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
They
I
printed.
remember. I
They
remember
printed.
there was a boom. Yeah,
Yeah, but not just that. They printed on their own thing. They did independent before. They had trouble, but they made it.
yeah. Well,
So it's
that's also why the originals are worth so much money because they were so limited.
because the big heads they don't take chances. They don't risk anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's it. I mean, like I said, that's one of the things I'd say. Go check out multiple people. Go check out something called Global Comics. Global Comics. It's a place where you can read some books digitally. They have like Marvel, DC, and everything, but they also open to indie comics. So a lot of creators like me go there and put their books there. So that's another place you can discover us and then go support our books on crowdfunding.
Okay,
You
awesome.
know,
What's that? Google Comics? Is that like our?
Global
It,
Comics with an X.
so that's his own website, or is it a
Yes,
page on
it's
something like Facebook?
it's a website called Global Comics with an X, right?
Okay.
And it's a place where you can subscribe and read comics for as you want. So part of the money goes to the creators that you read the books of. You get it? So it's a pretty
Okay,
cool
it's kind
thing.
of
Like
like
Marvel,
I
they're
guess
all there.
KDP. Like the more pages you read, the more the.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
awesome.
it's very interesting. It's a website that I found very interesting. I'm also on. I also have some book on KDP by the way. If you want to go check them out on Amazon. And
What do you have
another
on
thing
KDP?
on Amazon. I don't know where they put them though. Kindle, I think it is. Like I put them on the
Oh,
KDP
you have
thing.
some of the comics available on KDP.
Then all the books that are available on Amazon, they're available on KDP.
Okay, awesome.
Hmm. Yeah. And another thing I'd like to say, please go sign up to my website.
And throwing money, and hopefully somebody like Netflix will come calling.
Hopefully,
That's
like
what
I
happened with Hellboy. Like Hellboy, when the movie theaters came calling. Yeah.
mhm. Look, that's what happened to freaking Mark Miller. The guy
Yeah.
did his own comics, his own company, and then Netflix came and bought his entire company.
Oh, awesome.
He's a multimillionaire because of all this. He owns them, and now lucky guys that get recruited by him, like creators, like artists, like hopefully Mark. I'd love to. He comes in and he tries to fucking to like create something that kind of suit well with the creator, and he usually gives them 50%.
Okay, awesome.
So it's kind of like it's awesome. Like it's like
Yeah,
I said,
no,
go
that's
support
a
indie
big
comics.
improvement over the old days when like you're lucky if you got pennies.
Exactly. Like Marvel DC to me is like they have iconic characters, but I rarely support them. I mostly like maybe like like Greg Capullo went to do Wolverine. I bought that, right? Jim Lee now on Hush 2. I'm buying this, but I'm not a big Marvel or DC fan because like you said, they rip off and they don't respect their creators like almost at all.
Well, I follow
DC
more
DC
like
at least DC
individual
gives
artists.
royalties. At least DC still gives royalties to their people that create stuff for them.
Yeah, but
At
they
least.
fucked us. Like Alan Moore, you could listen for an hour to how much DC
Yeah.
fucked him over.
Yeah, they fucked him over and they keep his thing in print constantly, so
Oh yeah,
the rights don't
they told
revert
them they
back.
would not do, but yeah,
Yeah, but then that's just to keep the rights going. It's also the same reason why they keep changing characters now, making them this, making them that, changing the costume, changing this, changing that. Why? Because they create their own version of it,
right,
and the more they change them, the less they have to pay the creators.
right. Well, I know they come up with all sorts of excuses. Like with the Watchmen, they make watches, and he's like, "Where's my percentage?" And they go, "Oh, that's advertisement for your comic."
But that's why all the image people left because they were making T-shirts of their
Oh yeah,
work,
no, I know,
posters and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and
So
then when
they got like
what
a
we're supposed to
Wolf
be getting money for
Portaccio
this, they
and
go
stuff like
no,
that. Yeah,
yeah, it doesn't work that way, and that's the danger of the work for hire. And one of the ones that we have to thank for fighting this shit, it's Neil Adams.
yeah,
Another
no,
one
I
like you could
know.
say
Yeah.
all you fucking want about the
Who,
guy.
unfortunately, he died recently, but yeah, he's
Yeah,
awesome.
you can say all you want about that guy. Is this that? Yeah, he can be a dick too. He's a great guy. Okay, he's a great artist. You know what he's talking about. If you can put your fifis aside, usually it's constructive what he's trying to tell you. And two, he's the first guy to not cash that fucking check to go fuck you DC because that's what fuck you DC because that's what they used to do is that they used to write in the back if you sign this check you sign away all your rights for your art.
The sneaky bastards. Yeah.
That was the work for hire thing, and he went
Uh,
fuck this shit, and he stood with freaking Kirby, and dude, that guy's a
good.
legend.
Yeah. They screwed over Kirby so bad. Yeah.
It's not even funny.
But all right, man. Like I said, thank you for doing this podcast.
But thank you
Um,
for inviting me, dude. Like I said, you know, I, I love meeting new people, and I love making new friends, and I love geeking out about the stuff I love. So
yeah.
we could do
Well,
that again anytime you
if
want.
we talk old comic books, I could be here all day because I've read comics forever. But all right, thanks, man. Everybody, buy us stuff.